Western Australia has produced some of the greatest bands in Australian music, and in this list I'll be counting down the top 30. I will only be including the purest WA bands, so they have to adhere to these parameters. The artist or band had to have originated or be formed in WA. They also have to have recorded and played live gigs as an original band in Perth before they did anywhere else. So that means if a band has a prominent member from WA in their group, but they formed over East, they don't count. And also, if they formed in WA and then moved over East to start recording and playing live shows as an original band, they also will not count in this list. So, some notable exclusions that often get lumped into WA band category include INXS, AC/DC, Hoodoo Gurus, UMI, Baby Animals, and Empire of the Sun will not count in this list. Feel free to comment your agreements or disagreements below. Let's get into the list. Number 30, The Some Loves. A side project for Dom Mariani of The Stems, this band would release just one full-length album and find some decent success with their songs Know You Now and Melt. Despite their small output, many Perth music fans recall fond memories of their songs in the late 80s. Number 29, Spacey Jane. The new kids on the block, Spacey Jane, have shot onto the scene in a big way over the past few years. Their song Booster Seat hit number 2 in Triple J's Hottest 100 and was also nominated for and won Song of the Year at the ARIAs. They could rise up this list quite easily in years to come. Number 28, Black Eyed Susans. Many of the state's greatest musicians were in this band at different times. This included the likes of Dave McComb, Kim Salmon, and others. They will mostly be remembered as being a fruitful side project for big names, and their biggest song, Smokin' Johnny Cash. Number 27, The Jugites. This pop rock band had some fleeting success in the 80s, most notably with their song In Your Car. They are the only band in this list to also be named after a native WA animal, so that gives them some extra credit, I guess. Number 26, Supernaut. Now this band is one slight exception to my rule for WA bands. I feel like because of the time they started, they were forced to move over East to make it as an Aussie band, and recording options were really limited. They played their biggest hits such as I Like It Both Ways on Countdown too. Number 25, The Drones. Just scraping in as a Perth band as per my requirements. Their first EP was recorded and released in Perth. They might be higher up on my list if they stayed in Perth longer, but they mostly forged their career over East. Some of the band members now play in a different project called Tropical Fuckstorm. Number 24, Pond. Psych rockers Pond have forged a strong underground appreciation with multiple albums over the past decade. They have connections with Tame Impala, where some current and former members of that band participate in this project also. Even Kev was on drums here once. Number 23, End of Fashion. Hitting the big time in the mid-2000s with their hit Oh Yeah, this ARIA-winning Perth band seemed like they would be the next big thing in rock. Their popularity faded in years to come, but will always be remembered for their catchy pop rock hits. Number 22, Ammonia. When grunge was at its peak in popularity, this band jumped onto the wave with some big hits in the 90s. Most notably, their song Drugs will always be remembered for its simple but catchy and mosh-friendly vibe. Number 21, Little Birdie. One of the more successful alt-rock female-led bands in the Aussie music scene of the 2000s. Little Birdie had multiple hits with radio attention, including Beautiful to Me and Come On, Come On. Lead singer Katie Steele has since gone on to forge a solo career. Number 20, Methyl Ethel. A rising indie rock band that is currently growing in popularity all over the world. Methyl Ethel have released consistently successful albums over the past few years and hit big with their song Ubu, which reached number 4 in Triple J's Hottest 100. Number 19, The Victims. Before they were Hoodoo Gurus over East, Dave Faulkner led this punk trio in Perth. They only released a few songs but will always be remembered for birthing another huge Aussie band. The Gurus still play The Victims' biggest hit, Television Addict, for fun sometimes too. Number 18, Gyroscope. From the Perth bar scene in the early 2000s to becoming one of the biggest Oz rock bands later that decade, Gyroscope released consistently successful albums in the height of their popularity. Their music was used for commercials and gained mainstream Oz radio attention. Number 17, The Sleepy Jackson. Luke Steele's first project before he hit big with Nick Littlemore and Empire of the Sun, this band would capture the hearts of many indie rock fans in Australia in the 2000s, with ARIA-nominated albums and jangle rock-inspired singles. Number 16, The Panics. They will mostly be remembered for their hit, Don't Fight It, but the Panics forged a respectable presence in the Australian indie rock scene throughout the 2000s. Their albums never failed to disappoint fans and critics. Number 15, Carnival. Probably Perth's greatest metal/prog rock band, Carnival have an incredibly strong underground following all over the world. They've had a long career with only a few major releases, proving quality is always greater than quantity. Number 14, Pendulum. Drum and bass pioneers Pendulum have forged a career out of festival-friendly bangers and a huge following in Europe and the UK. They reside in England now, but their humble beginnings in Perth will always be remembered. Number 13, Johnny Diesel and the Injectors. Mark Lizott's first successful project was this Perth band, which released an incredible debut record with multiple rock hits that still get airplay on Oz Rock Radio. Mark would later go solo living over east as simply Diesel and cemented himself strongly in the Oz music scene. Number 12, Boys. The kings of the Perth pub rock scene in the 80s, Boys had a solidly successful presence locally and nationally. Some of the members of this band went over east with Susie DeMarchi to form Baby Animals and forged an even stronger musical career. Number 11, San Cisco. This indie pop band shot onto the scene in the early 2010s with their stalker-inspired song Awkward. They've since continued a strong career with solid albums and international attention with some of their singles. Number 10, Eurogliders. '80s synth-pop legends Eurogliders are mostly remembered for their song Heaven, which is a staple of most Oz classic rock radio stations. They firmly cemented themselves in the Australian music scene throughout the 80s with regular releases and appearances on Countdown. Number 9, The Waifs. Folk rock trailblazers in Australian music, the Waifs caught the hearts of many in the early 2000s with their song London Still. They have continued to release music regularly and are adored by fans in Australia. Number 8, The Stems. Led by Dom Mariani, garage rock legends from the 80s, The Stems cemented themselves in WA folklore with their classic hit, At First Sight. The song was used in the popular Australian movie Young Einstein and remains their biggest hit. Number 7, Birds of Tokyo. With many commercially successful pop rock songs, it's hard to look past Birds of Tokyo in the top 10. Their songs Plans and Lanterns are still consistently played on commercial radio, and recent pop hit Good Lord proved they still have relevant status in the Australian mainstream. Number 6, Scientists. Arguably one of Perth's most influential underground exports, Scientists would appear on a list of Kurt Cobain's favourite artists. Their post-punk sound influenced many in the growing alternative scenes throughout the late 80s. Number 5, John Butler Trio. This trio, led by John Butler, have stayed relevant for many years now. They have made a challenging leap from underground success to mainstream popularity whilst maintaining their roots in folk rock. Number 4, Jebediah. Probably the most suburban sounding Perth band of all time, Jebediah proved that distance was no issue when it came to making a splash across the country. They successfully navigated the uni show scene of the 90s to eventually play massive festivals. Number 3, Eskimo Joe. From bars in Fremantle to the big stage, the Eskies slowly built up to become one of the biggest bands in Australia in the mid-2000s, mostly thanks to their mega hit Black Fingernails, Red Wine, and probably From the Sea as well. Number 2, Tame Impala. Quickly becoming Perth's biggest export, Tame Impala have done it all. Headlining Coachella, viral songs on TikTok, multiple ARIA awards and Grammy nominations. What more is there to say about them? Number 1, The Triffids. The first musical act from WA that hit the big time. They made the cover of the Rolling Stone and put Perth on the map. They will forever be remembered for their amazing album Born Sandy Devotional and their timeless song Wide Open Road. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you like to hear about more WA and Australian music, please subscribe to this channel and you'll be able to see more in the coming weeks and months. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.